If you're a parent of a child with autism or other neurosensory challenges, you've likely noticed them engaging in repetitive movements like hand flapping, rocking, teeth grinding, or making certain sounds. And these behaviors, known as stimming, often leave parents wondering, what is this? Should I try to stop this? Is this harmful? What does it mean? What is its root cause? And while you may have been told these are just quirky behaviors to suppress or that your child will grow out of them, there's actually a deeper neurological story and root cause that most doctors miss. In this video, we're going to be exploring the real root causes of stimming, revealing its connection to nervous system dysfunction and neurosensory issues, and explain how relieving this stuck sensory tension within your child's body may help your family find relief. Let me tell you about a girl named Amelia. Amelia was a young girl who came to a PX doc's offices like ours with repetitive nodding movements. Her mom noticed these tics would appear when Amelia felt stressed or anxious, saying they helped her to get rid of the butterflies that she felt in her stomach. And while traditional medicine approaches suggested it was due to blocked adenoids, even after surgery, the signs persisted and worsened. When medications were suggested as the next step, her mom's intuition told her there had to be another way. And that's when they took a different approach and got neurological scanning technology done on Amelia, which discovered what many doctors had missed. Amelia's nervous system was stuck in a state of stress, sympathetic overdrive, and sensory dysfunction, creating these movements, these tics or stims, as a way to self-regulate. And that's the real purpose behind stimming. It's not just like a behavior to eliminate, it's your child's nervous system attempting to self-regulate. It's a natural, regular, normal response to a dysregulated, off-track neurosensory system within your child's brain and body. So when the environment on the outside gets really busy, really loud, really chaotic on the outside, because their nervous system is already overwhelmed, subluxated, and dysregulated, we'll go into these terms in a moment, on the inside, kids with autism, kids with neurosensory challenges will regulate and self-soothe through these movements, through these stims, because they struggle already to regulate themselves on the inside. And when we look into the research, it shows that 80% of adults with autism report that stimming actually helps reduce their anxiety and it provides essential calming effects. And the reason this is the case is because these movements serve as a coping mechanism that compensates for that already overwhelmed nervous system that is stuck in nonstop sympathetic fight or flight mode. So when a child with neurosensory challenges experiences more stress, because they're already doing so much to handle a dysregulated nervous system on the inside, they will exhibit these behaviors as a way of calming down that further dysregulation, which is where the hand flapping, the teeth grinding, and vocal tics, that's where they come from. There is a real neurological root cause of why stimming and tics are happening. And once we can know what that neurological dysfunction and dysregulation is, then we can address it naturally, neurologically, and without drugs. And so many families find relief and see improvements in quality of life because once we can get your child's nervous system calmed and more regulated naturally and on its own, it doesn't need to rely on stims and repetitive responses so much going forward. So let's break down the science behind stimming just a bit more to really understand that neurological root that causes the nervous system to behave in such a way. At the core of stimming lies an imbalance in the autonomic nervous system. You've probably heard of it before. There's two sides to it. You've got your fight or flight side and then the rest and digest side. But with stimming specifically, you have a situation where the sympathetic fight or flight side becomes overactive while the parasympathetic rest and digest side is underactive. Essentially, these kids' stress mode is turned on all the time, and their ability to regulate that is hindered. And we're going to talk about hindered by what in just a minute. But when they have this dysfunction, this imbalance, this dysautonomia, that's a fancy term for it, it leaves kids stuck in a constant state of stress and sensory overload. Because in sympathetic stress mode, you've got adrenaline pumping. And adrenaline is a chemical messenger that tells the nervous system to dial up the noise on our sensory system. What we touch, taste, hear, smell, feel. Our senses are louder, which is why kids who have a tendency to stim also may struggle with sensory challenges, aversion to certain foods, sensitivities to loud noises. They cover their ears, they don't like the tag at the back of their shirt, what have you. The point is, when a child's nervous system is experiencing that fight or flight mode, their sensory system is bombarded. Not only do they need to filter through the daily inputs and stressors of their lives, there's more to filter through. There's more energy that needs to be used because those inputs and stressors are louder. Or another way to put it, the perception of those signals, the perception of stress is altered. The nervous system is perceiving more stress, so it stays in stress mode. So then the question becomes, well, why is that the case? Because don't we also go into fight or flight as adults? Don't we come back out of it? Why are kids, and let's be honest, some of us as adults, why are we getting stuck in this constant cycle? And that's where we're going to go even deeper and dig into what's really going on. What is keeping this fight or flight mode stuck on? And to understand that, we've got to understand something called subluxation. The big picture understanding of subluxation is that it keeps stress mode stuck on. It keeps the nervous system in fight or flight. So what we observe is the initial trigger is stress. It could be physical stress, it could be chemical, mental, emotional. But then how the body adapts to that stress, how it subluxates, is what continues to stress the body out. The reason it keeps stress mode on is because it changes how the brain and nervous system is perceiving the rest of the body. Subluxation occurs when there is a combination of joint dysfunction, higher tone, a decrease in good input, something called proprioception or mechanoreception. This is the perception of movement and the perception of where we are in space, body position awareness. That stuck stress, that stuck tension, subluxation, it alters the signals your nervous system is perceiving. You can think of the signals of proprioception and mechanoreception as the good, nourishing input that the nervous system receives from the body and it needs in order to stay healthy and regulated. I want to give you a little analogy. Imagine you're talking to a good friend, having a normal conversation in a normal tone of voice. It's like me talking to you right now. Now imagine someone comes along and while you're in the midst of conversation, they put a megaphone in front of your mouth that not only amplifies your speaking voice, but it puts one of those voice filters on it as well. It's almost like when you're a kid and you're talking to a fan and you sound like an alien. Think of it kind of like that. So there's this conversation, there's a megaphone that's introduced, so your voice is now louder and distorted, and that's what your friend is hearing. How are they going to react? Probably different from before. They might yell back at you. Why do you have a megaphone to my face? I can't understand what you're saying. You're stressing me out. And that conversation, that communication between the two of you was definitely interfered with. And when we take that analogy and apply it to how the body and the nervous system communicate with each other, if the perception is off, if the communication is off, if we're not getting these good signals from the body, if they're louder, if they're distorted, that's an issue, because if we're not perceiving things appropriately, or if we're perceiving them to be more than they actually are, the response, how the nervous system responds to that perception, to that awareness, to that input is heightened, is more of that fight or flight response. When we have good input, we have good output. Stressful input, stress response. Stress input that doesn't go away, stress response that stays stuck on. That's what subluxation does, because it alters the information. It alters the signals, the input from the body that the nervous system is perceiving. So instead of it perceiving that like, kumbaya, like balance, delicious, nourishing, proprioceptive signals, we're getting a little goofy, it starts perceiving something less than, something more annoying, something more noxious, something more irritating, more stressful. And the term for this altered perception, it's called nociception, which then influences the response or the mode that the nervous system uses to react to this stimulus. So if our brain isn't being calmed by normal movement and in fact is being stressed out because it has less of that good calming input, it's going to compensate. So kids with autism and other neurological challenges, they're going to compensate via stimming behaviors and movements, especially in moments where stress is higher than their norm. And you know what's interesting? We do this too. When we're experiencing stress, we're about to go in for that big exam, we're about to give a speech or do something we've never done before. We twiddle our thumbs, we bounce our knee, we shift and move and do things subconsciously, sometimes consciously, right? And intentionally. Like we can do the Superman pose, we can take deep breaths, we can jump around and get the energy out. But what's really going on here? Our brain, our nervous system is craving proprioceptive, good, calming input so that it can regulate itself and not experience overwhelm from what it is we're trying to do. And again, this is a natural, normal response, but in a child with neurosensory challenges, subluxation, and a dysregulated nervous system, they're going to experience this to a higher degree. Now, before we wrap up this video, I want to give you 3 natural drug-free ways that neurologically focused chiropractic care, the type of care that we offer in our office and is found in other PX docs' offices, 3 ways this type of chiropractic care can help calm this dysregulation and sensory overdrive and these stimming sort of challenges in kids who experience this type of storm. The first way we can really help out improve the quality of life for kiddos struggling with these challenges is by cleaning up and calming down the sensory input into the brain and nervous system. When we have subluxations, particularly in the upper cervical spine, these can interfere with how the brain processes sensory information. This can then lead to sensory overload, which then prompts a child to stim as a self-soothing response. By removing this interference, by addressing the subluxation and restoring balance to the nervous system, chiropractic adjustments actually help the brain to process sensory input more efficiently, which in turn can reduce the need for stimming. And second, neurologically focused chiropractic adjustments can actually activate something called the vagus nerve, which is the nerve the body uses in a major way for calming itself down. The vagus nerve, VAGUS, plays a key role in activating the body's rest, regulate, and digest functions. And when it's not functioning well due to nervous system stress, kids can get stuck in a fight or flight mode. Stress mode runs rampant because they don't have a strong enough brake pedal or vagal tone, or think of it as they don't have the ability to calm and regulate like they could or should because their calming capabilities are compromised. And this is what leads to that increase in anxiety, an increase in the repetitive behaviors. So when there's more stress and more stress-driven stimming, getting the vagus nerve activated through chiropractic care can help promote better regulation, balanced, more parasympathetic or calming responses. Our specific adjusting protocols are designed to activate the vagus nerve so that this calming and regulation can occur. And that stems right into the third way chiropractic can help your child. The vagus nerve is also responsible for sensory, emotional, and behavioral regulation. And what's really cool is parents report all the time that when their child starts getting adjusted with this specific kind of chiropractic, their child handles their environment better. They handle transitions better. They handle noises better. They handle sensory input and touch and clothes and all these different things better. And parents are also reporting that their kids are getting better sleep, their digestion is getting better. And with neurologically focused chiropractic, it's getting to the root of their child's challenges. Their nervous system is less overwhelmed. It's less dysregulated. It's less of a struggle to manage things like emotions because their body is calmer. It's more relaxed. There's less of a storm on the inside. That's what we say with chiropractic. It's an inside out approach. It's helping to clean up what's going on the inside, that deeper root cause and dysregulation, so that they're better able to handle their environment and don't need to resort as often, as much, or often as severely to these responses like stimming and meltdowns and tantrums and so forth. So is neurologically focused chiropractic care aimed at eliminating stimming altogether? No. Everything with our care, as you can pick up from this video, is about addressing the root cause. Nervous system dysfunction, dysregulation, subluxation, and dysautonomia. Kiddos who are locked into autism and have significant stimming sort of behaviors often have that tension, that subluxation locked in there many layers deep. So what we do is we sit down knee to knee with you in the case history and deep dive into their story to see where this stress, where this subluxation first showed up. And we find all the time with kids who have stimming and are locked into autism, they were already locked into stress from things like a high stress pregnancy, interventions like forceps or C-section during birth that caused those injuries to the neck, to the neurosensory system. They had round after round of antibiotics. They were colicky, they were fussy, they had torticollis, reflux, the difficulty feeding, they couldn't sleep, couldn't poop, chronic ear infections, chronic gut issues, they delayed or skipped milestones. So through the case history, we find that out. And then through what's called our neurological insight scans, which help us to measure, track, and find areas of subluxation and dysregulation within your child's sensory system. So between the case history deep dive and between the examination and our scanning technology, we know what we're up against. And then we sit down with you again to go through a very specific care plan of action and adjusting protocol for your child. So if this video hit home and it sounds like your child and you've tried everything and you want to learn more, click on the link in our bio to learn more about stimming, autism, subluxation, and everything else discussed in this video. And if you're ready, like I'm ready, let's do this. Let's go do that deep dive consult. Let's get my child scanned and see how their nervous system is functioning and how we can work with you to get them to a better place where they're better able to handle their environment, they're better able to regulate, they're better able to calm and soothe themselves. And reach out, send us a DM. We want to help you and your family experience better health and function for your kiddo. So reach out. We can get you connected to our office if you're local or another PX Docs office if you're somewhere else. Learn more and take that next step to find out if subluxation, nervous system dysregulation, and the challenges we talked about are really what's causing your child's stims. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.